Hi everyone, welcome to Startup Impact Summit, a virtual conference focused on showcasing and creating impact. Today on the international and GBA stage, we are honored to welcome a panel of amazing judges who have experience across the entire Southeast Asia. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Vicky, who will take the panel.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Victoria Daet. I'm a consultant at OMG Network. In the previous life, I was with Slush, so that was a crazy ride. But I'm here today to talk to these amazing people about a really interesting topic, which is demystifying Southeast Asian startup scene. On the panel with me are Retno Dewati, head of Indonesia from Axis Ventures.
Hi, everyone.
And we also have Agnes Lee, product growth lead from GoJek.
Hey, hi, thanks for having me.
And we have Mohan Belani, co-founder and CEO of E27.
Hey everyone, it's good to be here.
Great. How's everyone doing?
Lockdown mode.
Lockdown. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, but it's really exciting to be in an event, at least virtually. So now we can still talk about really interesting topics and catch up as well on what's going on your side of the world, pretty much. To kick things off, how has the overall Southeast Asian startup ecosystem grown over the years? Have we seen more cross-border relationships? Has it been stronger? Maybe we could start with Agnes.
Yeah, sure. I have been spent a few years in Southeast Asia. I see the landscape actually changed a lot. Especially from the consumer app. So I can see there's a trend on user behavior as well as the company direction. They are moving towards diverse. That is quite extreme. So one type of app or company, they will move to a super app like GoJek or Grab. The other end, they will focus on really specific user case of their target segment group. So it's like both of them are very, very trying to strive. And also I can see much more different trial and error on the market. And I see so many different products compared to the past years.
Yeah, for sure. I think there has been a lot of growth, especially as you mentioned with super apps and just jumping into different verticals as well. But from a investor perspective, how do you think the startup ecosystem in Southeast Asia have improved so far?
Right. I think before that, let me a little bit introduce myself and what we are doing in Southeast Asia. So I'm Retno. I'm the head of Indonesia of Access Ventures. We are an early stage VC firm headquartered in Hong Kong. And we've been actively investing in Southeast Asia, mainly in Indonesia, Vietnam, and also Singapore, actually. So in regards to your question, how the startup ecosystem has been evolving, especially in Southeast Asia, I think right now the trend that I've seen so far in Indonesia is mostly people are in the past few years maybe they try to copycat what been successful in China and in United States, but now and also in India. But now I think the trend has been shifting, and I've seen a lot of startups actually more into growing to and focusing to solve local problems. So I've seen that trend in Indonesia, for example, a lot of company doing this kind of, trying to digitize the rural economy, and as well as in terms of from the founder perspective as well, there are more and more local founders who come back from, from foreign countries, come back to Indonesia, come back to Vietnam, and they want to solve the local problems. And it's been very, a tremendous growth in my opinion. And if you ask me about the cross-border relationship, as a VC that's been investing both in Singapore, Indonesia, and Vietnam, I think the level of the relationship that I can see here, I mean, I'm not talking about the vertical business in a way, but it's more like a cooperation or a relationship inter-country and all. I think it's more like how actually the startups can learn each other country's specific problem. And it's more like how they want to expand their products into another country. So that's why they want to tie up with those local players and also local regulators. So that's why I think it's very important, because those people actually who are gonna help them to open like their way to expand to the cross-border countries and also regionally.
Yeah, for sure. I would totally agree with that. I feel like before they used to look at product market fit as just copying things and then copy pasting it into their own region, but they don't consider the fit of it for the market. But
Right.
when it comes to building ecosystems, Mohan, how do you think it has grown from this point?
So the ecosystems have definitely gotten a lot more robust, a lot more mature, right? I mean, if you look at in the early days of the tech ecosystem, it would usually be made up of small community groups, developer groups. Sometimes universities would be involved. But now, if you think about it, right, there's a very close and deep like merger and partnership activities across multiple organizations, like namely government, the private sector, the venture community. You know, it's been a deeper collaboration across multiple sectors, and I think that's what's really needed for thriving ecosystem. And I mean, even recently in the Startup Genome reported that there were many more Southeast Asia countries that are now listed among the top 20 most vibrant and active ecosystems in Southeast Asia, which I think is definitely a very positive sign, right? The more investment that can go into ecosystem building, people and startups,
Oh, Mohan,
then ends up happening is that capital that goes into these tech companies. Sorry, did you
sorry.
guys lose me for a minute?
Yeah, for a minute.
Okay, oops. Go to these tech companies, end up flowing down to employees, end up flowing down to shareholders. And then when companies get acquired, that cycle starts all over again, right, through angel investments.
Yeah, for sure. And when it comes to collaboration, I think there are a lot of key players in the ecosystem. And just jumping back to Retno, when it comes to the growth of the ecosystem itself, do you think that the government programs in different regions have played a huge part in this development, or do you think VC-led initiatives have supported that as well?
Well, I think if you ask more on who contribute more, which program that is more effective in terms of driving the growth and all, I would say that it's actually always, a collaboration between multiple parties. On the government side, as a regulator, the government is an institution who provide us with the investment climate to make sure that the regulation is there to accommodate what the startups are going to do and all. Well, for us, on the private sector, like a venture capital, as an investor, we're more like helping to drive the innovation by providing the capital and all. So, yes, the government has been improving a lot, in my opinion, especially, to provide a regulation that it's in favor to the tech startups and all, but I cannot say that it's mainly from the government only. We always work hand in hand together with the private sectors, with the government, and even like multinational company who, for example, who wants to do the innovation, they also contribute in the driving the ecosystem. So yeah, it's more like the working collaboration between multiple parties.
Yeah, definitely. I think it needs to come from multiple helping hands, pretty much. But for example, for GoJek, Agnes, now that GoJek has definitely jumped into different regions, how has the government support helped you grow as a whole?
So like I think you cannot. So to a certain extent, you need to have some help from the government to grow beyond your scale. So I think there is a lot of discussion around like our new product and also with government, because at the end of the day, GoJek is want to solve the social like social problem and also improve people's life in all different aspects. And then when we talk about social impact or improve people's life, like we will talk about like how many people can use a wallet, and then how many people can use GoRide, GoCar to increase their income. At the end of the day, like how can we digitalize all the GoPay wallet, and also how can we put them into a unbankable group to like more literacy on financial. So this all of those, like without help, like or a top-down approach from government, I believe that will be much slower if we want to grow to a certain extent. So I think that will be a very close relationship with government.
Right. And since we're already in the conversation about the government, how do you think regulations play a part as well in the startup ecosystem as a whole?
So actually, regulation is a very tricky thing. So like,
right.
yeah, it's like you need to play around. You need to know the rules and you need to know how to win the game. But at the same time, regulation is not something you cannot change. It can be changed, but given you need to have a lot of proven record and also proven there is an urgent need to change the regulation. So I say like sometimes regulation can ensure us to have like very safe environments when we grow our business, but sometimes that might take a lot of time from us and our effort from us to really get a big fruit from the regulation.
Yeah, for sure. And Mohan, I want to pick your brain on that same question as well. How do you think regulations have supported, or like how big of a role does it play with the development of the ecosystem here in Southeast Asia?
Yeah, so I think it really depends on the sectors as well, right? Like in the very early days of the ecosystem, when Grab and Uber, for example, were building their business in Southeast Asia, and GoJek included, right? There weren't much regulations with those sectors, so that really kind of helped them grow because they were all playing in open territory. And I think along the way, definitely these organizations suffered a bit when in some markets like Philippines, the government clamped down. In some markets like Thailand, they made it a bit harder for motorcycle taxis and all that. But at some point, people will also protects the consumers. It makes sure it protects the businesses, so they're also like confined to the right boundaries. But in certain sectors, I feel where it's a bit more relevant now, like the deep tech sectors, where things like healthcare, education, stuff that is a bit more, I would say, serious tech, and it could even potentially affect the lives of people. I think that's where regulation needs to be strong and play a good role. I think one area that we can learn from is, for example, the fintech sector, where regulation is a huge problem, yes, but the central banks have also come up with like models or sandboxes that have allowed startups to operate within a certain amount of boundary that gives them a bit more freedom and flexibility to innovate, while the central banks, the governments, and the startups also figure a way around the regulation issue.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I'm currently with OMG Network as a consultant, and obviously it's in fintech, so we're always battling regulations and issues like that. But it's definitely true. Like here in the Philippines right now, where I'm currently holding down during the isolation, there are a couple of banks who have actually ventured into blockchain and really looking into the developments and how they could improve and basically catch up on this new development that is currently happening right now. And you mentioned healthcare. I think Retno could have like a really good insight on that actually when it comes to regulations.
The issue that I've been facing so far, I think in Indonesia with the healthcare is that it's a lot of regulation is actually still in a gray area, like for example, the government do not really provide us which one that is being restricted and which one that's actually fully allowed. So sometimes that's the thing that like sometimes make the company or startups they're quite confused to operate. They want to make sure that they do their business without having any issue with the regulations, but but like the regulation is not there, so there is no restriction, but there is also that the government give them a green light that yes, you can go ahead with this kind of a business model. Like for example, like the easiest were probably like the telemedicine and also the online prescription. I think until now, like in Indonesia we have like some big players, like for example Halodoc, Halo Doctor. I would say that they're like the most advanced or most valuable health tech company in Indonesia right now. And we can do the online consultation, which is very helpful, especially in this kind of the pandemic situation. However, when it comes to the doctor should write down the online prescription and all, I think my understanding so far, it's still something that being debatable whether it's legal or not. And as Mohan mentioned, because it's something that related to people's life, it create like a trust issue as well sometimes, because they would say that, okay, I can get the online prescription from the doctor, but the government said that it's something that it's not legal. So as a patient or as the end users, that it might also create like a confusion. So, but yeah, I think health tech in Indonesia, it's been like very evolving. It's growing very well. A lot of companies trying to solve this issue, like from the telemedicine, from the access to the insurance, and as well as like to help the people who live in a rural area to get proper access to the healthcare. But from a VC perspective, I really hope that one day that this regulation is getting clear, so that there is no there is no doubt, or there is no uncertainty for us, especially when we want to inject the money into the health tech startups.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. Hopefully, everything will catch up as well as regulations. But another thing that we could talk about is the appetite for this new technology. So we've talked about how the tech ecosystems in different regions have tried to build this and basically help this innovation come through. Regulations as well. There have been a lot of developments in that. But is there actually an appetite for new technology? Are people really biting into this like tech movement that we are all in?
If I can be honest, especially in Indonesia, there are not many people who are actually tech savvy. So I don't think that they really, as the end consumers, they really consider that what is something like it's a very tech or not. But I think like as long as it's something that create more efficiency, give them more access to whatever it is, any kind of the sectors, I think people are start like getting interested in that model. Like for example, as I mentioned earlier, in Indonesia, I think right now the things that being like a favorite thing for everyone is like the social commerce, for example. People do not, in the past, actually, if I remember correctly, the model of the drop shipping business or reseller business has been there actually, but it's not really supported by the tech model. But now with the tech, with people or the startup founders, they can really serve those people who do not get access to e-commerce and all. And so that is why with the social commerce, people are getting interested in that model, even though they do not really understand what is the tech behind this model. So obviously there is a new interest as long as this is something that can help to make their life much easier. But do not expect to get anything like a deep tech from Indonesia, like for example, artificial intelligence, blockchain, or whatever it is, because I think based on my experience, it's still way to go, especially for Indonesia. Maybe Singapore has much better appetite for that kind of model. But yeah, consumer tech is definitely something that people will be interested to use to help them to get much easier life.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Although Indonesia have been doing a lot of great moves towards when it comes to decentralized finance. So that's kind of nice to see as well. But how about you, Agnes? What are your thoughts on the consumers? How are they adapting to the new technology?
I think that is very funny to see that. Like, it really depends on how the technology can solve your problem and how the solution can communicate to your users. it really solves your problem. Like I can give you a very good example, like HelloDot. And the adoption of HelloDot in the past before COVID is actually not very high. Like HelloDot is a service that you can ask your for medical advice if you don't have any doctors available in your area. And then like after COVID, because the COVID information and also all those correct information is not very accessible in Indonesia, so a lot of people start using HelloDot. So like, does it mean that is increased appetite? I think yes, but it really depends on how the technology can solve the problem. If they have very easily understand communication or solution for the end users, that would be really good for the users to try the product. But otherwise, it really depends on a lot of things, like which segment and also like other area.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. It really depends on once it becomes quite required or something of a dire need, then I feel like there's a lot more adoption. But Mohan, what do you think about it as well?
I mean, the pandemic has definitely been a catalyst for the adoption of like some core verticals that maybe were not that important in the past, like simple things like grocery shopping, communication software, e-learning, and all that. So we've seen how in those verticals, like suddenly people were very, very dependent on it. I mean, even in my own home, right, I could never get my parents to use Redmart or grocery delivery services, but now it's a regular thing, which is really big, right, from an adoption standpoint. And I think this is really important because once people use technology and these services and they get used to the idea of how well they work, then the friction to using them in the future is definitely a lot less. But the other aspect of technology that I feel that most people don't talk about is when it comes to entertainment. So if you look at gaming, if you look at Netflix, right, content services, a lot of them have increased significantly because in the current pandemic environment, the need for social activity, the need to be entertained has been something that people probably misunderstood or didn't expect that much, right? And in that sense, right, having like good quality content, good access to entertainment related services for consumers has proven to be quite an important thing for this period, right? So I think technology, we have to remember that the utilitarian aspect of it is critical and important, but the entertainment, the social, to keep people sane, those aspects are equally important as well.
Right. I think to add on that, because I invested in esport companies and they're doing like an online tournament and they've seen like surge in terms of growth during this pandemic because everyone just staying at home playing game and they just want to do like the online tournament. So yeah, it's entertainment is definitely something that has been growing very fast, especially during this pandemic. To give to make people not getting bored as because they have to stay at home. So yeah, esport is also another thing maybe, Vicky, that right now in Indonesia is growing very well and that people start having the appetite and also interest to get into that industry.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the whole startup ecosystem has been leveraging on that fact. And then jumping onto a whole different topic, I know that it has been an issue, but in some regions in Southeast Asia, it hasn't been something that has been talked about as much. But when it comes to the availability of creating teams and getting quality talent for you to be able to actually bring up these projects, or for example, for startups or for VCs or for media or for any ecosystem builder really in the tech scene, do you think there is an issue or is it an advantage?
I'll jump right in for this one. So the problem with talent, I think, has always been a global one. Like even Silicon Valley and some of the top tech hubs globally have this challenge, right? It's not a uniquely Southeast Asian challenge or a Singapore challenge, for example. But at least what has helped in this period is that once people have been used to the idea of remote work, they've been able to restructure some of their workplace policies or some of their their working models to allow for remote work. But and the best part about this then is that it opens up the door and the opportunity to hire people remotely, not just out of your home country. it also opens up the possibility of people having to, build stuff together despite not being in the same room together. And the thing is, it's not a new concept at all, right? Like companies like Automatic, which built WordPress, they've been doing this for years, since day one, and their teams are completely global and distributed. So I guess in some sense, like companies are forced to do this, and I hope that at least this model will help alleviate some of the talent-related issues. And more so, I hope that this model gives better opportunities to people who want to work for good quality companies who might not have an office or might not have a physical location in their hometowns.
Yeah, I think to add on that, what I've learned so far during my time in VC, that especially in Indonesia, there is a gap for the tech talent. I don't know why, because there was a data from the Ministry of Education that there are thousands of people who graduate with a tech background. But then at the same time, a lot of startups, they say that it's very difficult for them to get tech talents. So I don't know what is wrong. Maybe like the education system, that they do not, that the curriculum was not designed to make them to be able to code or whatsoever. Maybe Agnes is better in explaining this for the tech perspective. But yeah, we've been facing this issue for such a long time, that a lot of startups, they have to outsource their tech talent from Singapore, from India, because they think that they cannot find tech talent who really can code or develop something from scratch in Indonesia. I don't know why. So maybe the Ministry of Education, they have to change the curriculum.
No, Retno, all the good tech talent is hired by GoJek already. That's why.
Could be.
Oh, but that's so true. I think what you said is actually something I would agree on. I feel like in school, they teach them how to do specific things, but they don't teach them how to build things from scratch, from the ground up. They don't teach them how to hack things. They don't teach them how to, have this passion for actually, basically like paving the path for a new technology. But yeah, definitely, I'd love to hear Agnes' thoughts on this.
Like, I think that would be a little bit unfair to say that like it's very hard to hire the local talent, and it's because the technical level is not good enough. They do have a really good technical talents, but so when we like post a job opening, we said that we need to have 5-year experience on coding, whatever. But what we're really looking for is a people who have high ability on coding with local insight and also regional mindset. I think that is something missing. I think it's not just in Indonesia, it's actually across the whole SEA. So like when we operate a super app, so we would like to have people who can imagine if we expand outside Indonesia. So what if we expand to Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, or other Southeast Asian as an ecosystem? How can they scale from Indonesia to other regions? So that mindset is actually very particular and also definitely not like taught in school. So that's why maybe there is so many articles or comments that like simplify all this situation, is that we cannot hire people from local or Indonesia, but that is actually not true. It's just there is a lot of context behind that. But I definitely see there is more and more people like talent like this, like with regional mindset, with a lot of overseas exposure, come from US, UK, or other country, and come back to Indonesia and Southeast Asia to want to contribute to their country. So that is a really exciting thing to see, and also that help in general to train the team in local team, and also like get more perspective from outside.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that as well. I feel like it's not just with the skills that a person has, but as well as their fit with the company, if they actually believe in what the company is trying to do and how they can basically build it with the whole team. Yeah, great. Right, so I'll just jump into going back to talking about the Southeast Asian startup scene or ecosystem as a whole. Mohan, how do you think corporate innovation has helped in speeding up Southeast in Southeast Asia into becoming a startup hub or a great tech ecosystem that could basically compare to other ecosystems in the world.
So I think it was never easy to work with corporates, right, in the early days. They used to be large organizations to navigate, and typically finding a stakeholder that could be your champion in the corporate would be a very challenging thing to do. So in some sense, like corporate innovation helped to break down that boundaries. So now working with a well-renowned like local corporate or regional corporate is a lot more straightforward because you have people within the organization that are specifically trained. They have the right processes and the right understanding of how to work with startups. So in some sense, I think that has helped, right? On the other sense, also a lot of corporates have started doing programs where they share challenges that these corporates face. I remember even at one point, like Singtel, the corporate, the telco here, they would do a proof of concept kind of styles or short-term engagement with startups, and they would even pay them a small amount of money in the event that the full deal doesn't go through to kind of fairly compensate them. So I think this gives like startups also the opportunity to understand like bigger opportunities within the larger corporates. It also gives them an idea, right, on how they can better navigate the corporate environment, because startups sometimes can be a bit naive or very grossly underestimate, right, how challenging it can be to work with startups, with corporates, sorry. But the flip side also is that corporates change their mind quite regularly sometimes. A program that might be there this year might completely be gone the year after. So startups that sometimes piggyback too much on corporate-related innovation activities may lose out, right, once the corporate pulls the rug or cancels the programs. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, but I definitely do think it's still generally helpful for the ecosystem.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that as well. Retno, you had thoughts on it?
Yeah, because last year actually I was working for corporate innovation with Coca-Cola Amatil, which is actually a large corporation. It's Australian based. So yeah, I think as what Mohan said, it's still very beneficial for the startup ecosystem. Maybe like to start, like for example, a lot of corporate actually when they try to build something inside their own team, they will think that it's something like very costly, and then they have to start from scratch and all with, and then eventually they end up working together with the startups instead of building from scratch. So corporate innovation, it's not necessary to be building inside their own company or building on their own. It can be also like something they create a platform or like a program which allow the corporation, the company to work with the startup so that they can adopt their technology, and then they can like integrate their current business with the startup technology, so it will help them to create efficiency for their business process. So yeah, it's I think it's a good thing, but I haven't really seen a lot of corporate innovation in Indonesia from the local company. But yeah, by working together with the startup, I think that's something that can help the ecosystem to grow, because then startup at the same time they can get like a big clients, and also they can learn how to serve like large organization to like create a localized, or what is it, like a white labeling product. So yeah, it drives more on the startup innovation as well.
Yeah, so I think that is one more thing I want to add on that is, so when a corporate company like invests in some startup or helps some startup to grow, that really help them to tackle some very complex issues. So for example, like if you are fintech startup, so there's so many compliance or some regulation that you might not have experience to handle, but the corporate actually has the whole team to do it for you. So you will be much easier to get into that like area, like with a corporate backup, and also the capital that the corporate company will invest. That is also quite substantial as well. So that is the way, I think, the good side on like how corporate help the startups.
Yeah, for sure. Adding on to what Retno said about how it's also efforts by the startup, Agnes, what do you how has the GoJek system actually helped support in the local tech scene?
So like if you look at the whole GoJek ecosystem, so that is not just GoJek, GoPay, or other Go service, but actually there is a lot of subsidiaries that we invest or like we work with them to make sure like in each vertical we have an end-to-end service to the consumer. So I can give you an example is payment. So we have GoPay in our app, so it's available for you to do P2P merchant payment or any service you use on GoJek. But at the same time, that is Midtran, so it's a payment gateway that enables so many small merchants that you can use Midtran to receive payment from credit card, bank account, or others. And then at the same time, so we also have a lot of things to support small merchant business. For example, there is an app called Sally. So it's a seller keyboard that can enable or empower the small merchant to do their business like easier and also gain more income from that. So that is the concept of when GoJek want to build an ecosystem, it's not just acquire as much company as we can, but it's actually be very particular in one service to see how deep we can penetrate and also with more control on the end-to-end journey. So how the experience can be improved for the users instead of like it cutting into different parts and user need to go to another app to do that. So another example is I'm not too sure you noticed that it's actually some service available on GoJek app, but when you click on it, that is actually redirect you to other website or other native app. So like that one is something we're also trying to see if we can explore more and more potential startup or small business that can leverage GoJek huge user base and then help them grow, and also at the end of the day to see we can provide a lot of holistic service to the users.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's all about really zooming into the main issues that the ecosystem that you're in and trying to solve those little by little. And on that note, I'm going to jump into the very last question for our panel, which is basically, what do you think is next for the Southeast Asian ecosystem? Maybe I'll start with you, Mohan.
So I mean, I think on one hand, like a lot of companies are struggling with due to the pandemic, right? So I think it's going to be a good opportunity for companies that have been struggling over the last few years to kind of realize that, hey, it's either they completely pivot and do something totally different, or they shut down and move on. And I think as much as companies dying is not a good thing, I think it's a necessary thing, so that the talent gets distributed out. Then the founders running these companies are given the opportunity to either work on new companies or contribute to other companies. And I think it's a necessary but painful transition in the ecosystem. That's the first thing I think that will happen quite significantly. The second thing is I also feel that companies that might be struggling to raise money, but are actually doing well, or might be having like cash flow issues, will have an opportunity to get absorbed by larger firms or merge with similar players from regional markets. And in some sense, if you think about it, right, multiple companies that are tackling the same problem could actually be better for the ecosystem, better for consumers, because that could potentially reduce prices, improve innovation and all that. So I think these are the two things that I would share on my end.
Yeah, so that is actually a very good point. So like you mentioned, either the company go home or they just go big. I think that is actually a very tricky question, because we don't know where we will be in next 3 months because of the COVID. So many things just change. But like it gives us a chance to go back to basic. So what do users really need, like on different perspective? like you see the company now survive. It's actually serving the very basic need for the users. And then like for those like travel industry or other industry, they will pivot to like one really great example is Cloak. So they have like selling a lot of travel product, but after COVID, they are selling a lot of grocery or other things. So that is something I think is really good for us to think about. Like innovation means what? Is that mean innovation means innovation, or innovation means improve people's life under every circumstances? So that is, so I cannot tell like what's next in SEA, because I hope that the COVID thing will be over soon. That will be a next. But before that, like that is something we should think about as a business, as a what we serve, a basic function for the users.
Yeah, I think from my side, there are two things that I've seen and I want to share. Probably the first one is on the consolidation part. I've been seeing that actually a lot of players start consolidating, like GoJek acquiring a lot of startups in Indonesia and also Southeast Asia to support its business. And then Grab also doing the same thing, and then Tokopedia. So yeah, that's I start seeing a consolidation in Southeast Asia, especially like for a big player or big startups start acquiring smaller startups to support each other. And then the second thing, because I'm a VC, I think I've been seeing like a shifting in terms of the investment model when the VC wants to invest in a company. So I would say that before the WeWork fiasco, the mantra is always growth at all costs. So we don't really care even if the company burn a lot of money, because we only care if the company grow very fast. That's a few years ago when before the WeWork fiasco happened. So, but now after the WeWork fiasco, I think we do not want to hold that mantra anymore. There is no more growth at all costs. We as a VC, we want to invest in a sustainable business. But doesn't mean that you as a startup, when you want to build a company with a positive unit economics, doesn't mean that you have to sacrifice the growth. Doesn't mean that you can execute your product or your business in a very slow movement. You need still to keep with the speed, with the pace. And then the third thing, since the pandemic happened, what I've learned, I think that VC also looking into a business who can pivot fast, who can adapt with the situation. Because maybe like quoting what Darwin said, that at the end of the day, it's not the strongest who will survive. It's the one who is more adaptive with the situation. So if we learn from the lean startup methodology, it's also has been said since the beginning that as a startup, you need to pivot fast, learn fast, and adapt with the situation in order to make your business survive. And so I think with this pandemic, whoever survived this crisis, I'm sure that next year, on the next few years, they will thrive. So yeah, that's what the key takeaways, I think, from the VC perspective, especially on the funding.
Yeah, I'm with everyone on this for sure. I think there's a lot of uncertainty that's happening right now, and we don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 months or the next year, really. But I totally agree as well that I feel like startups and the whole ecosystem as a whole has always been ready to adapt and ready to pivot, and on that fail fast mindset, but as well as totally understand how the shift will be affecting everything. But I have high hopes. I think things will be great. All right, that's basically the session. Thank you so much for coming. But before we end this, we'll just go around and just tell the audience how they can reach us. Do share your LinkedIn if you could. I'll kick it off with Victoria Daet. You can look me up and add me. Happy to connect.
Yep, and you can connect with me. I'm Retno Dewati. I'm on LinkedIn, so just connect with me on LinkedIn. And if you guys are funders looking for a funding, especially on Southeast Asia, I'm ready to hear your pitch. So feel free to reach me out.
Yeah, so I'm Agnes Lee, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Thanks for your time, and yeah, I love to hear more new idea about Indonesian startup or all those stuff. Thank you.
And I mean, you can search for me on LinkedIn, Mohan Belani. And yeah, feel free to send me an invite, and I'm always happy to engage with investors and founders.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And hopefully I'll get to catch you guys in the real world when things reopen again. See ya.
Thanks, Vicky. Bye.
Thank you for this. Bye.